So what does it really mean to show up for yourself, and why are so many of us not doing it? This is a question that's been on my mind a lot lately because I've noticed more and more that a lot of us are stuck in this pattern of completely ignoring our mental, physical, and emotional needs, oftentimes without even realizing that we're doing it. And I think for a lot of us, we don't even realize that it should be a priority or that we should be a priority. And if that is the case for you, then I hope this video changes your mind. Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today we're talking all about how to start showing up for ourselves. And I think it's important before we dive into this topic to really discuss what that actually means. And I think it can look a little bit different from person to person, but basically it involves some very important concepts such as allowing ourselves to be authentic, having self-compassion even when we make mistakes, making choices that are actually good for us, keeping the promises we make to ourselves, loving ourselves, taking care of ourselves, standing up for ourselves, believing in ourselves, honoring our needs and wants, and giving ourselves the support we need to live our best life. Now, on the surface, we may actually feel like we're doing all of these things, even when that's not the case. Or in other cases, we may be painfully aware that we're not doing these things, but feel a lot of guilt at even the thought of making these things a priority because we've absorbed so many toxic messages throughout our lifetime that directly conflict with these ideas. So for example, we may feel like taking care of ourselves is selfish, or that we can't be fully available to take care of others if we are directing too much attention on ourselves. Or we may secretly feel like our entire worth as a person hinges solely on doing for others or on being who other people want us to be. We may even feel like we don't deserve to treat ourselves well because we don't think we are worthy of it. We think we're flawed in some way, so what we want or need really doesn't matter. Or we could be just so used to other people failing to show up for us that we've forgotten our own true self-worth. There are all kinds of toxic messages that may have contributed to us stopping to show up for ourselves. But for our own happiness and our own well-being, we have got to stop listening. We've got to start to unlearn these very destructive tendencies and thought patterns. And there is an extremely powerful quote by Dr. Rebecca Ray that really hits home. There is nothing quite as disconcerting as the sense of abandonment that comes from leaving yourself behind. Yet unfortunately, this is where so many of us find ourselves, and sadly, the negative consequences that this can lead to are huge. Everything from physical health problems to mental health problems like chronic stress, depression, anxiety, relationship problems, resentment, work issues, dissatisfaction with life, unhappiness, and burnout. But thankfully, it is never too late to turn this around and recommit to showing up for ourselves. So let's talk about some very specific things that we can do to start this practice. The first is to begin by getting to know ourselves better. A lot of times we don't show up for ourselves because we lack the self-awareness needed to do so. Maybe we've been ignoring ourselves for so long that we haven't even been paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So if that's the case, we can start asking ourselves some questions like, who am I as a person? What are my needs and desires? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What are my values and goals? And how can I help myself live a life that is in alignment with my true self? And I know I've said this in many videos, but journaling can be one of the best ways to explore your thoughts and feelings in more depth. You can write about whatever comes to mind, and you don't have to worry about anyone judging you in the process. It can be an incredibly eye-opening experience. We also need to start paying attention to our thoughts and feelings more in general. So throughout the day, give yourself time to sit and reflect on what you are thinking about and how it's making you feel and why. You want to honor and accept these feelings, and you also want to get in the habit of checking in on yourself and becoming more aware of the things that you are going through, because the more self-aware we can become, the better equipped we are to make choices that are right for us and to create a life that is happy and fulfilling. The second thing is to practice self-compassion. We need to start being kind and compassionate to ourselves, especially if the other people in our life are not treating us in the way that we deserve. We need to treat ourselves in the way that we deserve. We also have to stop punishing ourselves and learn to silence the critical voices in our head. Everybody makes mistakes, and it's time that we forgive ourselves and we just learn from these mistakes. Instead of being our own worst enemy, we have to be our biggest cheerleader. And these are all topics that I have many videos about. I will go ahead and link in the description box below, just in case you want to explore them a little bit further. The third thing we can do is to set boundaries. We have got to learn that it is perfectly acceptable to say no to things when we do not have the time or they simply do not serve us. When our plate is full, it's fine to say no to new commitments without guilt. In fact, it is essential sometimes to turn down invitations or to ask for help, because these are the actions that help us to preserve our time and energy. Setting boundaries also sometimes includes standing up for ourselves when it becomes necessary, which may mean that we also need to learn to be a little bit more assertive, which is simply just saying that we have to communicate our needs in a clear and direct way. It does not mean that we have to be aggressive about it. It simply just means that we need to be open and honest. This is a great way to learn to advocate for ourselves. And if this all makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, please know that setting boundaries and becoming more assertive, these are just skills, and we can learn to improve these skills. And I have many videos on these topics that may support you in these journeys. So I will go ahead and link them down below, because these are skills that are absolutely life-changing. The next thing is to simply do things that you enjoy. Stop neglecting yourself. It is in no way selfish to take time to do things that you enjoy. In fact, it is essential. It is food for our body and our soul. We also have to start committing to our passions and to start taking actions towards our goals and dreams. And it's funny because it seems like we're always so supportive of other people when they choose to do this, but then we neglect ourselves, and we need to start supporting ourselves in exactly that same way. Believe it or not, not only is this one of the most rewarding things that we can do for ourselves, it actually greatly benefits other people, because when we take time for ourselves, when we show up for ourselves and provide ourselves time to do things that we enjoy, that revitalize us, that give us passion for living again, we better serve others. We are a much better version of ourselves. And this is something that I realized a few years ago. I know that I absolutely love to play guitar and I love to run, but I was never taking time for these activities. I was always putting myself last. And once I realized that and actually made these things a priority without guilt, my entire life changed, and the people around me could see it. I was so much more happy and invested in life and invested in my relationships. So doing these things for ourselves is certainly not selfish. It actually greatly benefits other people. Number 5 is to listen to your body. We need to start paying attention to our physical needs and giving our body what it is asking for, whether it be good food, adequate sleep, time alone, exercise, time in nature, whatever it is. We need to listen to our body, because it will tell us, it is giving us cues. We are just so used to tuning them out. So we need to make sure that we start listening again. So for example, if we notice that we're getting overwhelmed, we need to step away for a while, maybe go outside, go for a walk, listen to some music, or quietly read a book, something to help us de-stress. We want to hear that cue and honor it, because when we ignore our physical needs, not only can we get very sick, but also it greatly reduces our life quality. If we don't take care of ourselves and we allow ourselves to become completely depleted, as I know so many of us have, we need to address it. We need to reverse it, because if we do not, it's going to affect us on every level. We're not going to be able to function well in any facet of our life. It's going to affect us professionally, personally, and in all of our relationships. We also need to take care of our mental and emotional health. Now, this needs to become a huge priority, because our emotional health affects how we think, feel, and behave, which influences everything in our entire existence. So this means that we have to find healthy ways to manage stress and to cope with difficult emotions. And as I said earlier, sometimes we can do this through journaling, but we can also do this through talking with a therapist or meditating or spending time in nature. Social support can also be a huge aspect of our mental health. So it's so important that no matter how busy we are, that we take time out to visit friends and family and that we maintain our social connections. It's also important that we reach out and seek support when we need it, when we need a little bit of help. The bottom line is that taking care of ourselves and taking our needs seriously are practices that we need to be fully devoted to, because when we do this and we start showing up for ourselves, we are finally able to live a life that feels authentic and feels fulfilling, which is something that you 100% deserve. I would love to hear if today's message resonated with you, and if you were watching and kind of starting to realize that maybe you have been neglecting yourself or putting yourself on the back burner, because it really isn't ever too late to make that change and to recommit to ourselves. And it's so essential that we do. As always, I truly hope that you found today's message to be helpful and insightful. If you did, please like it, share it, and definitely become a subscriber if you aren't one already. I would absolutely love it if you stayed connected. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.